Hi, Sarah and Danann. How are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Very happy to see you guys. Sarah, I know we've met before, but it's always nice to see you. I'm a fan of yours. And Danann, finally, it's nice to talk to you. I've been following you for a while now on Twitter because you are the senior publisher for Emond Publishing, and I'm very happy that you're here, both of you, for Who Cares? And we're going to be talking today about legal publishing and who cares about legal publishing. So I'm hoping that
Very
you will,
few people.
well, maybe after this interview, more people will be interested. So maybe I'll start first by asking both of you to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get more in depth into what legal publishing is. I'll start, ladies first. I'll start with Sarah.
Sure. I'm Sarah Little. I'm a defense lawyer based in Toronto. I was called to the bar in June of 2021. So I'm in my second year of practice, although I spent the first year of my practice clerking at the Court of Appeal. My practice is exclusively in criminal law, although I do a mix of trial and appellate work, and occasionally some professional discipline work in the quasi-criminal sphere. And that's about it.
Thank you, Danann.
I'm Danann Hawes, so I'm the senior publisher at Emond Publishing. So I manage all of the books for our practice division, so books for lawyers. My first dozen years in legal publishing was at LexisNexis Canada, and then I moved over to Emond about 9 years ago.
All right, so Danann, maybe if you can tell us, what does legal publishing mean?
Well, legal publishing generally consists of providing products for lawyers. So whether that be sort of traditional textbooks, if you're one of the large players in the space like LexisNexis or Thomson Reuters, then they have mammoth digital primary law databases. And of course, there's a lot of kind of newfangled machine learning driven products that are available for lawyers as well. Emond tends to focus on case books for law students and books and ebooks for practicing lawyers.
And it's a pretty wide collection of books that you have, and it covers different areas of law. I mean, obviously there's criminal law, but there's also other areas of law that are covered by the Emond collection.
For sure. For the practice division, I focused heavily on criminal. We've taken a series approach. We want to be able to offer up sort of a large collection of titles and keep going back to the same market and really sort of embed ourselves in the market. That was sort of my initial kind of strategy. So I've focused on criminal and immigration, both federally regulated areas. It's a little easier to create those books. And then now I'm kind of knee deep in developing in other areas as well. So we're going to be publishing in wills and estates, personal injury. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time these days doing, is developing in those areas. But criminal law will always be my first love, that's for sure.
And although you're not a criminal lawyer, right? You are a lawyer, but not a criminal lawyer.
Right.
And any plans of becoming a criminal lawyer, Danann?
No, I think that ship has passed. I articled 20 years ago at an insurance defense firm, and it wasn't the best experience for me. And I don't think I've got the personality or kind of the demeanor that is required to be a litigator. I don't like conflict, so that I think that's kind of important. I much prefer sort of collaborative approaches and just finding common ground and building relationships with people. So publishing is a good fit for me there.
And so how does that switch happen? Like, from being a lawyer to publishing, like what led you to that environment?
Well, I think it's for lawyers, it's it's a often overlooked avenue for, for people who have a legal background, legal education, but don't actually want to practice. I actually think it's a great option. It's a great alternative that probably more lawyers should look into if they're not happy with practice. So after my articling experience, yeah, as I said, it didn't take long for me to realize that it probably wasn't for me. And then I honestly just saw an ad in the ORs for LexisNexis for Quick Law at the time. And then I applied and went from there. So I don't think I realized at the time that I was embarking on, a brand new career that I was going to, be doing for the next however long. But it's worked out that way, and I couldn't be happier. Like it's a very interesting line of work, in my opinion.
And so what did you do when you first started in this line of work? Because now you're the senior publisher, but before that, because you were with LexisNexis, so what did you do when you first started with LexisNexis?
Yeah, I started out as an acquisitions editor, working not really in a sense all that different than what I'm still doing. It's all working with authors. So like finding projects where there's a gap in the marketplace, where you feel that you can offer something different and of real value, and then finding the people who are most qualified to offer those texts. And that's something that I've always enjoyed doing. I love working with lawyers with really smart authors, and I get to learn a little bit about that area, which is fun, but I also just get to hear their stories, and they're often exceedingly interesting people. I find it's very rewarding in that sense. And then when you've got books that do well, and the marketplace really likes them, that goes a long way too, because you feel like you've provided something of value.
Right. It's a very good way to contribute and to give back to the profession. But
Yeah.
I was wondering, how do you select, or how do you choose the authors for the books?
I use well, like for Crim now, I've been doing it enough where I kind of know who the players are, and I'm always keeping an eye on who the up and comers are, who are the established leaders in certain areas. So that's part of my job, is just to, that's why I'm on Twitter so much, is I want to see who's doing what. And so, it takes a while though to really understand, a certain bar. But in the early days, I'll often go to Lexperts or Best Lawyers, or I'll just find someone, I often have journal editors. So like for the Crim series, I've got Brian and Justice Rondinelli, and so they know everyone. So instantly they can kind of open doors for me, suggest people for me. And that gives me, that lets me get up to speed sort of, faster. So that I find that really helpful too. So it's sort of a variety of different sources to find the people who are most qualified to write.
All right. And so we know that, well, we can call Sarah an author. She's the author of her case series, Little Legal Summaries. So maybe if you can tell us both about this collaboration. First, Danann, how did you find Sarah, and how did this collaboration that Sarah is now doing, how did that happen? How did it start?
Well, Sarah's one of those bright lights that I was talking about. I've been following her career for quite a while, and I recognized that she was a real up and coming talent. And in those situations, I want to kind of connect as early as possible so that I can build that relationship over time. And I'm sure Sarah will eventually become an author on one of my titles down the road. And we've already discussed this, that this is going to be sort of an ongoing professional relationship that we'll build upon. So I'm always looking for that young talent, and Sarah is that in spades.
So Sarah, tell us about the Little Legal Summaries. I know, like I follow you as well on Twitter, so I've been following your career and what you've been doing, and it's really very exciting. So tell us, how did you start this, and did you start it alone, or did you have a team? Did you have friends, colleagues? Give us more details.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Maya, for including me in this. it's always interesting to talk about Little Legal Summaries at this stage, because when I started it, it was really just kind of a personal passion project. So I could have never imagined kind of what level or what stage it would get to over the years. I started Little Legal Summaries in the summer of 2019, which was the summer between my second and third years of law school. And it was essentially the product of two of my mentors, Michael Lacey, who I currently work with at Brody Thorning, and Professor David Tanovich, who I worked very closely with during my time at Windsor Law, who had both independently told me, as strong members of the appellate bar, that something they thought helped set them apart during their respective practices was to review appellate case law on a daily, weekly, frequent basis. And so at the beginning of my summer with the firm, I set out with this goal to every day at lunch read the cases posted on the Court of Appeals website. And after day two, that really quickly fell to the wayside because it was just so easy to get caught up with the other things going on with my practice at the time. And so at the end of the summer, I'm not really sure where the idea came from, but I thought to myself, if I had a mechanism to hold myself accountable to, like some sort of readership, that I would stick with it. And I thought that was really important, given that two people that I really looked up to and continue to look up to had both independently given me the same piece of advice. And so that's kind of where it was born. The name is just a fun play on my last name. And so I just started alone, just myself, and I'm not a technology person, you know, beyond the basics of someone my age knows. But I looked up how to make a website through Squarespace. My initial website design was very basic. I did a redesign this last year, which is a little less basic, but still pretty basic. And I just started drafting summaries of cases, specifically in criminal law, because that was my personal interest and the area of practice I intended to pursue. And so every day I would log in to see the decisions posted on the Court of Appeals website, and I would decide whether or not I thought it had some sort of jurisprudential value. And I would summarize it and post it. And I had a Twitter account at that point, which was pretty small, but I started posting them, and 4 years later, or approaching 4 years later, here we are.
Very nice. And Sarah, now, so you started Little Legal Summaries when you were a student,
Yes.
but now you're a lawyer. So is it still, I mean, are you finding it harder now to to read all these cases from the Court of Appeal? How are you managing now that you are a lawyer, and naturally your workload is a lot bigger now than it was when you were a student?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. The grass is always greener, I guess. When I was a student, I thought I was super busy, and I guess I was, you know, for that period of my life. And, you know, I struggled with it even then, balancing various extracurriculars I was in, moots, course load, grades, etc. But I found time. I actually took a 1-year break from it during my clerkship, out of an abundance of caution to avoid any appearance of conflict or any potential conflicts of interest. And then I started back up this past August, September, following the end of my clerkship and my return to private practice. I will say that private practice is certainly much busier than being a student. And it's certainly something that I'm struggling with, not in a negative sense, but it's just, like you said, my time is just far busier now that I'm a practicing lawyer. But it's still something that I think benefits me on a personal level to be familiar with case law. It happens relatively frequently that, you know, I'm working on a factum or I'm speaking with a colleague about a case, and something will pop into my mind. Oh, I think I read a case about that. And it's easier to search because I'm a little familiar with the basic facts or maybe the judge that wrote it. So I certainly still see a tangible personal benefit, but also the platform, my Twitter platform and the blog itself, Little Legal Summaries, has certainly had a lot of intangible benefits in terms of the people I've been able to meet. But this collaboration with Emond obviously would not have happened had I not started the blog, etc. So the benefits, I think, tangible and intangible, far outweigh maybe the stress or the difficulties I'm having balancing my workload. But I think in the near future, I'll likely be adding maybe some members to the team if I can find some students that are interested, or something like that, just to help ease that workload a little.
And so now you are working in collaboration with Emond. So what is Emond doing? How has adding Emond to the mix change how you're doing your Little Legal Summary? So maybe both of you can tell us, what is the role of Emond in this now?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a number of reasons why we chose to collaborate together. I think on my end, at least part of it is that I, as a student, used a lot of Emond books. I used the criminal law series a lot, so it's certainly a product that I personally use and believe in. And so I like the Emond brand and what they try to do. Their criminal law series is obviously meant for practitioners. It's very accessible in terms of the way things are organized. It's not some dense philosophical treatise.
And it looks nice. I mean, I'm a fan of the packaging. I mean, I
know. Look, you can see my little collection nice. Behind me. It's like a little rainbow. It's beautiful.
It's very nice.
So, you know, it's important for me to work with, if I'm going to work with a brand, that I work with a brand that I personally support and use their products and things like that. And, you know, I'm a big fan of the Emond books, and I think that their name, their brand, helps legitimize my brand and my blog as well, because there's a little bit of reputation behind it with the Emond name being paired there. In terms of the day-to-day changes, they help me a lot with marketing, and so their marketing team assists me with sending out the monthly email, or now bi-monthly email, with the summaries. They've helped expand my reach a lot, given that they have such a strong fan base of their criminal law series. So that's one, legitimized my brand in some way, but also expanded my reach. And yeah, they assist with marketing in terms of graphics, that's the word I was looking for, that I can tweet out when there's new posts, things like that. They take care of all the digital marketing in terms of the email and the design of that. I also have assistance with copy editing, which I use from time to time. But overall, I think it's like I view it, and maybe Danann feels differently, and I'll be interested to see what he has to say too. But, you know, I view it as like a brand collaboration, because like I've said, Emond has helped legitimize my name in some way and has expanded my reach, but I think I expand Emond's reach to a different demographic, given that, you know, I am more junior in the bar, and so Emond's very well established amongst the senior members of the bar, but I'm introducing them more to the student market with this series, the junior lawyers, things like that, and the reach that I have on Twitter as well.
And so Danann, tell us about from your point of view, the collaboration between Emond and Little Legal Summaries.
Yeah, well, you know, Sarah really summarized that well. I completely agree. Those are a lot of my reasons as well for wanting to collaborate. Sort of more broadly, I guess I view my role as publisher. You know, it's important for me. Yes, we're creating books, we're selling books, but whenever I can offer other services, and especially if they're free services, I feel like that, you know, that's a certain kind of goodwill that the company can benefit from. So like we have the Lawyers Lounge podcast, we have the summary service. Those are free resources where I feel like we're offering real value to the criminal bar, and we're not asking for anything in return. Yes, we have, you know, they are advertising vehicles. We are a commercial enterprise. I won't pretend that we're not, you know, we're not still, you know, sort of pushing product in a sense, but we're offering useful value-added content for free. And I don't want to, you know, I really want to be viewed. I want Emond to be viewed as a partner, not just a, you know, a commercial vendor. And so I think that Little Legal Summaries helps sort of legitimize that that concept of being a, you know, a trusted partner. So that's the main, that's the main reason that kind of motivated me to collaborate. And everything else that Sarah said in terms of reaching a younger audience, her footprint on Twitter, all of that are relevant factors as well that we benefited from. I think it's going really well. I'm really pleased.
No, it definitely is. And I mean, the books also, and the book collection keeps expanding. Like I remember at the very beginning, there were maybe just maybe a couple or 3 books, but now it's, and actually, what's the goal now? Like, are there going to be new books in criminal law, or what are your plans for the future, Danann, with Emond, and specifically the criminal law series?
Yeah, Maya, I never thought that it would evolve to be so voluminous. Like, I remember when Justice Rondinelli and I sat down and came up with the concept originally 5 or 6 years ago. We were thinking, 4 or 5 titles, something like that. And it's kind of ballooned. And now we just published our 16th, plus our first treatise, Modern Criminal Evidence. I've got other first editions that we'll be publishing next year. So by the end of it, we'll probably hit 20. And then, we'll be updating all of these books as we go. So it's become a much larger initiative than I think anyone had planned. But, it's obviously, it's great because we're, we've received a lot of positive feedback and sales have been strong.
Right. And was the plan originally to have several editions of the books, or was it just you were going to make them and you didn't really think about whether you're going to have to update them and have editions after that?
Yeah, we always knew we would update all of the books that were successful, essentially. And essentially all of the books have, sold really well. There's a few that maybe, we might take a little longer to update. They're a little bit more niche, but generally speaking, we're updating everything. And it's important that the collection remains up to date because that's one of the only drawbacks of a print product, right? And is that it's sort of a static point in time assessment of the law. So it's important that we keep it up to date. So I try to keep everything on a 3 to 4 year turnaround schedule, so that so that everyone has resources that are accurate.
And when, for example, so when we have a new book that comes out in Emond, is it like, how does it work? Is it do you get an idea and do you say, okay, like I think like we should have a criminal law book on a specific about a specific area, and then you start contacting potential authors, and that's how you create the book for that area of criminal law? Or is it the other way around? Is it someone who comes up to you, a lawyer, and will tell you, I'm thinking of writing, a book about this specific area in criminal law, and then like, is it either way, or is it like, or could it be, like both? Like, how does this idea for a book start with Emond?
Right. Yeah. It's a mix of both, Maya, for sure. At the beginning, when no one in the criminal bar really knew who Emond was, it was really me, working with Brian and Justice Rondinelli to come up with ideas, and they would open some doors. But it was usually me like cold calling or them calling and arranging a meeting or something. So it was a lot more difficult at the beginning because we didn't have a footprint. But once we started to gain momentum, it became a lot easier. And I would say now, for the most part, it's people contacting me, which is really nice. So they're kind of unsolicited proposals. And, that's always, from a publisher's point of view, that's always a good situation to be in, right? When they recognize you as, a leader in the space and they contact you. My job gets a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think now a lot of criminal lawyers know about Emond, and we all have at least one Emond book, or maybe most of them. I have as many I can think of. I keep buying them. They're really good. And so, Sarah, to go back to you then. So what's your goal now for Little Legal Summaries? Because it's very successful. I think a lot of lawyers read your summaries. Maybe some also rely on them because we don't always have time to read every day all the decisions that come out of the Court of Appeal. So what are your plans for your project?
I guess continuing what I'm doing at a minimum. It's, that's not something I touched on in my earlier answer in terms of, part of the collaboration, but that was actually a big part of it. And I can't believe it slipped my mind, but it's really important to me to provide a free product. There's some really great paid for products by Emond, by other publishers, by other individuals who provide summaries or other similar services. But for me, from the get-go, it's been very important that it remain a free service. So partnering with Emond or having collaborations allows me to do that. And so continuing to provide, accessible open access content is very important to me. So that's something that I'll continue doing. When I relaunched in September and August, I relaunched a second part that's not affiliated with Emond, but it's affiliated, or the reason I launched that second part, which I think I call Little Legal Info, is that now that I'm in private practice, I not only want to provide summaries, which I'd say are aimed more for law students and lawyers that practice within criminal law, but also to have content geared towards potential clients, actual clients, or individuals who are actually in the criminal legal system. And so that part of my website is geared towards, providing basic language explanations of the main steps of the criminal process, what's a summary conviction versus indictable offense, or, what's an undertaking, or what's a surety, or things like that, kind of explaining.
Like a blog, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Explaining, I don't love this term, but in layman's terms, the legal jargon, legal terminology, basic steps of the criminal process. So I intend to continue doing both aspects of the blog. As Danann mentioned, down the line, the goal would be to be an author for one of the criminal law series books. And so, yeah, I think that's the future, is just continuing what I'm doing. Hopefully, like I said, bringing on maybe some students or some junior members of the bar that would be interested in working together, so that I can, part of my goal would be to include summaries from other provinces, BC and Alberta. Unfortunately, as a single person, I don't have the capacity to do what I'm doing with the Ontario Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and other provincial Court of Appeals. But hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to expand into those areas, as well as continuing both the summaries and the blog info style type information, and hopefully continuing my collaboration with Emond with respect to Little Legal Summaries, and maybe beyond that in terms of authoring or assisting with the criminal law series.
Well, you're definitely with the right person. I mean, Danann, we all know how supportive you are of lawyers, criminal lawyers, and new lawyers. I mean, you've also supported WiCCD with our presentations, our CPD events. So we're really very grateful and lucky to have someone like you in the criminal bar, because you're really very supportive of so many people, even people that you haven't met in person. So it's very nice to see this collaboration and all the support that you're giving to criminal lawyers, especially. And I wanted to thank both of you for your time today. It was very interesting to hear about legal publishing, because not many lawyers are involved in it. And it's very nice to see how both of your brands are growing, and they're growing together. And I honestly can't wait to see what's happening next. I can't wait to see the new books that you will be adding to the series, Danann. I'm sure you already have some new ones that are coming up. Just before we end the interview, if you have anything that you want to say about legal publishing or about Emond, I'll just give you your the opportunity to say something.
Well, there are various sort of organizations and associations within the criminal bar, and obviously for women in Canadian criminal defense. You're a big part of that, and that is something that, you know, I really want to support. I think it's really important. I know that there is a lot of retention issues when it comes to women in the criminal bar. So, you know, it's really, it's not very difficult for me to offer up, you know, some door prize books and whatnot. Any way that I can support organizations, especially those that have, you know, that kind of social or sort of yeah, like a social equity sort of dimension to it, I'd like to be involved, and I think that's important. So, you know, I love supporting you with that, and just generally, you know, I'm trying to get to know everybody. You know, I want to, you know, my goal from the very beginning was to just embed myself, and it's a lot more fun for me doing that as well, because I am a people person, and you know, I want to connect. So it's been a real pleasure, and I've really enjoyed this session as well. So thank you, Maya.
My pleasure. Sarah, any final thoughts?
No, thank you so much for having us, and congratulations also on your award from WiCCD. That's very well deserved. You are so involved with everything, CLA, WiCCD, and everything in between. You're such a contributing member of the defense bar, and we're lucky to have you. And so thank you for organizing this interview and for including Danann and I in it.
Well, thank you. And I'm lucky to know you guys. And I think it's a very exciting time to be in criminal defense, even though we're losing a lot of people, but still we have a lot of really interesting people to work with. So thank you again for your time, and good luck for your future collaborations as well.
Thank you, Maya. Have a good day.